This Art Byte is brought to you by the Alaska Arts Education Consortium, and Miss JoAnne Knight is Kodiak Island Borough School District's Arts and Culture Coordinator. JoAnne, take it away.
Hey, I want to say thanks for joining. I see Denise, I see Judy, and thank you, Peggy, for the opportunity. So really excited to do this, but super nervous as well. And in the last 8 weeks of distance delivery, I've learned a few things, and I also am humbled by the amount that teachers that are regularly working with students are learning and modifying and doing. So I probably have a step in tech that I could take to connect the iPad better to the laptop. I'm not there yet. And I know for some computers it works and others it doesn't. So right now I do have it set up. So I'm glad that Peggy talked about the gallery view. I first tried this lesson with Judy's class in Chiniac, early elementary. So Judy, I have just a couple of very small modifications that I've learned in the last few weeks that might make this a little more interesting. So chime in and let me know what you both know from teaching online, because I think there's a possibility that we'll have to keep refining the way that we do our arts delivery. And just to plug in for, hi there, to plug in for Some Arts, if you are in, hi, hey, if you're in Kodiak and you know students that want to do Some Arts, it looks like I'll be teaching a class, and Denise, I think, will be teaching a class. And Judy, for you, people who know and have students out in the rural sites, this will be accessible for students out there not having to leave where they live. The Arts Council will be sending arts kits out for whichever class people sign up for, and then we'll be doing an hour of distance delivery a day times 5 days in the week. So more information to come on that through the Kodiak Arts Council. But today we are going to learn to draw our pets. And today we are all, well, except for me, imagine yourself as a early elementary student, kindergarten through maybe third grade. And I'm going to have you do a few things as we talk about some basic shapes and we talk about how to do a basic drawing. Here goes. All right, everybody, this is my dog, Elsa. She's a really great dog, but I took a photo of her because I know she's not going to be able to sit still for long. But I really want to learn how to draw my dog, or a dog in general. But before we do that, I want to talk about some basic shapes. So we have triangles, rectangles, and ovals. The ovals are green and they're a lot like a circle that's kind of been squished out long. The triangles are purple and they have 3 pointy ends. And the rectangles are the blue ones, and they're kind of like stretched out squares. So I'm going to have everybody get up for a minute, move around your house, and safely bring back an object or 3 that you know that you're allowed to touch and move. That would represent an oval or a circle, a triangle, and a rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to get up and I'm going to do the same thing. We'll meet back here in about 1 minute, and go. Looks like we're still searching, so I'm going to give everybody about 1 more minute. All right, I see people coming back.
JoAnne, can I
Look.
just make a quick
Yes.
announcement for Olivia? Hi, Olivia. Thanks for joining us. Um, if you haven't already, change your view to gallery view. If you bring your cursor down to the lower left corner, you should have three options for your view. The gallery view is the four squares option, and that will allow you to see everybody at the same time, which will allow us to see JoAnne's sketchpad.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so that we can do a kind of like a little show and tell. So I can see everybody a little bit better now. Did anybody find a circle object? If you have a circle, let's hold that up. All right. So I had no trouble finding a circle. Looks like lots of us have a circle. All right, how about a rectangle?
I thought you said oval. So,
Oh, yeah,
but
I did. And then I said circle or oval because I thought oval might be hard.
a
Yeah,
rectangle.
rectangle. Oh, cute. Okay, who found the triangle? I had a hard time with the triangle.
Oh, this was lucky.
Yeah. Okay, I was scrambling, so I grabbed a dishcloth and I folded it in half. So nice. Is that an earring, Denise?
Clever.
Clever. Okay. So in doing this with students, I'll pop in and out of, pretending you guys to be students, but just reiterate, and you guys chime in too who work with the youngers about, safety and what you're allowed to touch and not touch and what you can bring. And of course, we don't want objects that we're not supposed to show at show and tell. And a lot of teachers I've been hearing have been finding like great success and engagement in doing some get up and out of your seat and come back type movements and then some show and tell type movements. So that's an addition since I first did this with Judy's class, however many weeks ago. Feels like 4 or 5 weeks, maybe. I'm not sure. So definitely that's a good thing to do. The other component of distance delivery, of course, is we don't have a lot of control over what students have in their houses. So trying to make this lesson very accessible, using an envelope, using a piece of recycled paper. Not everybody has art paper, but just any piece of paper would work. Lined, it doesn't matter. Okay. The other thing, preferably, would be to have a pencil. I don't have a pencil in my house, and I'm an art teacher. So I have this fantastic red, watercolor pencil I found, and I've got a marker, and it doesn't matter. So reassure students about that as well. The other thing is if you don't have a photo of a dog, because we're going to do a dog today, you can use something else that's an animal photo. You can also use a stuffed animal. So I'm going to give us another minute to get up, move around, and then bring over the object or the picture that you're going to use to do your drawing. So here we go. One more minute. And then knowing your class and how engaged they may or may not be with getting back to the screen, you might want to do like 30 seconds, or I'm counting down. By the time I get to 10, please be back in front of your laptop, your device, in 8, 9, 10, we're back. So just gentle reminders. Maybe you have a chime that works, but tailor that. Use things other than your voice if you need to. There's lots of computer aided timers that might be appropriate. The other thing that I would suggest doing at this point is tying in your math content standards, and I won't go deep into that other than talking about basic shapes, and depending on what grade level you are, you might get into some angles and congruent sides, parallel, perpendicular, so on. This would be a great time to tie that back in. Okay, So now I'm looking at the picture of my dog and I'm wanting to notice where do I see triangles? Where do I see my ovals? Where do I see my rectangle? And then I've highlighted those for you on Elsa. This is Elsa. And I'm seeing that she's got probably about 4 triangles that make up her head and ears, her mouth. Got a big triangle there in her back leg because of how she's sitting. I'm noticing that her body looks very much like a gigantic oval. And I'm noticing rectangles and even possibly a little square there on her front paw. I'm also noticing that part of her tail is hidden behind that piece of driftwood. And I can choose to add that in where I would imagine it to be, or I can choose to draw the driftwood. All right, so looking at your drawing, looking at your pet, looking at your photo, looking at your stuffed animal, depending on your age, also reiterate they're not drawing on their pet, but imagine where they see these basic shapes. I would slow down, I'd let that happen with kids. And then I would start with the largest object. So for Elsa, it's going to be that big green oval. And here's where I'm going to slide over and do this real time with you guys. Okay, I'm looking at that big oval and I'm drawing and I'm doing very light, repetitive ovals, keeping it nice and light. I want to encourage everybody that we're not going to use an eraser for this. We're going to draw in all of our shapes very lightly with a very relaxed hand. You can talk about how to hold the pencil here. My hand is just very light. My elbow's resting on the table, and I'm just doing a quick gesture of an oval. When I get more shapes onto the page, that's when I'm going to darken up my lines to show the contour, the outline of my pet. Okay. I'm going to notice then that if this is the bottom of my picture, where my hand is, that means I need to start blocking in where her head is. And I'm going to do that by lightly drawing in that rectangle. So I'm looking at that blue rectangle on my picture. I'm just blocking in very light gestures so that I have a place to set those triangle ears. Again, just very light. Place the muzzle and her lower jaw. All right, so here's where I would pause depending on my class and knowing my kids, and I might do a round of show and tell, so I'd like to do that with everybody. I would also do a check-in to see, do you need more time? Where are you with your drawings? Are there any questions? All right, so I'm not going to hold mine up because it's already on the document camera, but if you feel comfortable holding up your drawing to date and want to show that off, we could do a round of that really quick. Nice, Denise. I see triangles, circles, ovals, and some rectangles. Very cool. Is that a dinosaur?
Oh, it's a cat.
A
Jon
cat.
Snow.
Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, and Olivia.
Yeah.
All of you teachers who've been teaching online, it's hysterical when everybody holds their pictures up and they hold them up really, really close to the little green dot, and then And then everybody's picture doesn't look like anything anymore. You guys all just did the same thing the little kids do. It's so cute. Yep, there it is. So, what's really nice about this though is screen capturing the progress or like your finished products. The pictures cover up the students' faces, and you can get a nice gallery view of everybody's piece without any student faces in the pictures, and then that's easy to share without worrying about publication permissions. So that's a nice thing to think about too. All right, I'm going to screen share again. Okay. So you'll notice on my PowerPoint, when I originally did this drawing, I had a little mistake. I have an extra line coming out the bottom of Elsa's mouth, and that's okay. That's one of those Bob Ross happy accident things because I'm going to turn that in to something that's not in the original picture, but I'm going to turn that into something. Can anybody guess what that mistake line might become?
Is it her tongue?
It's going to be her tongue in this picture. Yep. So again, thinking that many of our students might not have a lot of art supplies, you've just got to be really encouraging about, we're not erasing any lines. It can turn into something else depending on which way that line went. Maybe she's holding a bone in her mouth. However, right? It's art and it's always changing. It can always be edited, just like a story that you might write in school. The stories are never ever finished because you are always going to read them in the future and you can always edit them in the future. Same with a piece of artwork. Okay, so poor Elsa's about to fall over here in this picture, so I am going to give her a back leg. So remembering where the bottom of my picture is with my hand right here, I'm going to block in this big triangle. Nice and light, lots of gesture lines. Just going to think about, okay, her back is here. I might want to take a little moment to start to really define where her back is. I know that her leg is going to come up here, so I'm pressing a little bit harder now as I'm getting this leg in place. Remembering the tail is going to be somewhere here. I'm going to have a leg coming down the front. All right, and here we go with that long rectangle, her front leg coming down. Gonna put that little paw in right here so she has something to balance on. That's a rectangle again. That back leg's getting drawn in. Remember I said I needed to leave room for my tail, and now in the picture, that's all I could see of my tail. But I know that my dog likes to wag her tail a lot, so the choice I made is to give her another rectangle here, and I'm going to end it with a nice little triangle because she has a pointy tail in real life. And it's curled because she's a happy dog. There it is. Okay. So now I'm starting to see some of the outside lines that I really do like about this drawing. So I'm going to shade them in a little bit darker. So as I'm doing that, I'm going to encourage you all to do the same thing. Okay, what are those lines that I know are really the true lines? Okay, added some claws right there. Claws sticking out there. I know that her tail is happy, pointy. Okay. Just really trying to define those outer edge lines. Okay. Now, sometimes students might be upset because there's all those lines inside that they would maybe want to erase. But this is a great time to talk about what's your dog covered in, or what's on your dinosaur, what's on the cat, whatever it is that your students are drawing. What's the surface of that animal look like? it's fantastic that I have so many extra lines already on my drawing because I want to go in eventually and add a bunch of fur on Elsa, right? So those lines are going to end up getting covered up. Okay. You can start adding some fur in, or if you're doing that dinosaur, you can add some scales. That cat definitely probably has some fur. When I originally drew that little blue rectangle on her head, I know that underneath that area is where her eyeballs are. So what shape are eyeballs?
Oval or round?
Yep, very good. Okay, so here's a problem that could happen. A student might have a pencil, crayon, colored pencil, or a pen, but they might not have a sharpener. I don't have a sharpener, and mine is about done. So they could use another color, a different, you know, this is my marker. I'm gonna add in. I could add some nice contrasting color. This is a great time also to talk about artist choice in that my dog is a dark colored German Shepherd, but maybe in my painting or in my picture or my drawing of her, she's going to be yellow and purple and blue, and that's okay. The other thing that I really learned in the last few weeks with the remote distance delivery is attention span and engagement time with students. And I know the district finally put out some parameters or suggested guidelines for about 20 minutes. And it's interesting to me that we have a high school teacher and we have some elementary teachers here. What are your thoughts about how long you would typically want to do a lesson? And then also, because I do arts integration, what are your thoughts on how many content areas would be appropriate to tie in at one time? Like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh, we can hit math, we can hit storytelling, we can do poetry writing, we can do all this stuff to incorporate other contents. But then I look at the clock and I realize, wow, we've already been on for 30 minutes. So I'd love to hear feedback from everybody here.
So I teach 5 different classes, and what I do is I make sure my class pages are all ready. They know what they need to do electronically. I spend maybe 3-5 minutes on that, and then I pick one thing for us to do together. Sometimes it's a scavenger hunt online. Sometimes it's watching a 8-minute video and let's have a discussion. And that's really about all my content, and then answer any questions because I only have 30 minutes, and that works out pretty good. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I think adjusting to when I was in a classroom, I had my own classroom, it was anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on the schedule, if it was blocked or not. And really adjusting to a much shorter time frame and realizing that you want to leave students with something to go and do on their own. You want something that's so engaging that, and Judy, maybe you can speak to this too, because I know you roll out something on a Monday and then encourage them to do some of that on their own during the week and then come back and share on a Friday. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit too.
Yes. I mean, I don't know if I have a lot more to add than it seems like my last project I did was combining a couple of things that the students already had skills from previously in the year. So we weren't really doing anything new. it was just talking about the idea, and it took him a couple of weeks to make a story.
Yeah. But then you've got, you have your picture that they've made, and then you've tied that into some writing standards, and then of course speaking and listening standards because we're engaging online like this. So, and Olivia, are you speech and language? Is that right?
I'm like Denise, ELAP, but at the elementary
Oh,
level.
gotcha. Okay, cool.
So
Yeah, if
same
you have
thing,
any
30
insight.
minutes per lesson. So a lot of lessons would continue into the next day. But yes, tying in like you did, that was a fine example about even the length of time, to go maybe find something or go over the shapes and just keep it simple with their attention span. You want to match their age with the attention span, and tie in those shapes and math standards.
Something else, and some of you may have taught art in the past too, so this will just be a reminder about what I learned as an art teacher. Never ever do your best drawing or your best artwork because that's the fastest way to intimidate students, or you'll get those students that want to do the exact same. They want to replicate what you've done, and that's highly frustrating for them. And it's not what you want. You want them to be expressive and creative in their own right and look through their eyes. So totally be okay if you don't feel like you're the best drawer. Like, I don't know that I would frame this picture of Elsa that I drew. And I also would spend personally more time than 10 minutes trying to draw something that I would want to, do for myself in my own artwork. But you definitely, a lot of teachers hesitate to do artwork with students because they don't feel adequate or they don't think they have the competence or confidence to do it. But you really actually want to be a bad artist. It helps to level the playing field. It's inspirational for your students to see you trying. You want to be able to give them the basics of how, and then also really remind students that practice. The more, if you're learning how to do handwriting or printing, it was really bad when you started in kindergarten. You could barely write some of your letters were even backwards. But now in fourth grade, your printing is just beautiful. So it's a practice thing with drawing or any artwork that you do. So I'm happy to stay around for questions. I also would love to see your drawings. And this is one of those if you're comfortable sharing things, right? And some teachers' classrooms I've been in and out of, they've set up a system where the kids will just say pass, or they'll say, oh, I'm going to show you on Friday. But if you're comfortable sharing today, go ahead and hold up your photos or your pictures.
I love your cat there, Denise. Let's pretty.
Can you change the screen real quick,
Yep,
JoAnne?
Yep. There it goes. Okay. Is that better? Yeah. Aw, yes.
Mine's a pug that looks like Yoda.
Great.
I love that expression. That's my expression on a Friday at 3:00.
That's mine every day at 3:00. No.
Yeah, I'd love any feedback. You could even email it to me. My reference point too is trying to get into teachers' classrooms, so any feedback is great. And I know that we're all like really learning how to do this distance delivery thing, so I appreciate that. Thank you and also it's May. Thank you for showing up at 3:00 in the afternoon or 3:30. We're almost done.
So thank you so much. So it may seem kind of strange to say this, but by the time kids get to high school, they've either decided they are an artist or they're not an artist. And so a lot of times, 3/4 of my class is full of kids who don't think they're artists. And so doing this kind of activity is a really good way to start. Even though it seems basic, I think it could help them, So, I mean, I appreciate this whole scaffolding because it's given me some ideas. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And you know what? I'm so glad you reminded me. When I was doing, way back in college, doing my art education endorsement, whatever minor I did, that was the biggest aha that I remember today is if you never had art all through school and you're a 12th grader and you take an art class because you have, you need that elective, your level is really kindergarten, unless you're one of those natural artists. But if you don't practice and you've never been taught, you're a kindergarten. You're a stick figure drawer, and that's totally appropriate. That's developmentally where you are. So yeah, make sure you let the big kids know that, because yeah, if you can do this and you've never drawn before, it looks like a dog, so you're doing awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Great.
Good to see you outside of hockey.
You too. I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, JoAnne. I
Thanks,
do want to
Sadie.
share that we have AAEC's puts on arts institutes each summer, and unfortunately, most of our arts institutes for this summer have been canceled due to everything that's going on. But we have the Juneau Basic Arts Institute that was scheduled for June is reformatting itself to be an online option. So I'll have more information about the Juneau Basic Arts Institute very soon, I think.
Just one last comment, JoAnne. I do agree, keep it simple, because that lesson that I did with the 2-point perspective
Oh
was
yeah.
way too complicated for that age group. So I think the students that were older were like, they were okay with it, but the little ones were pretty frustrated, I think, easy on. So
I did that as a student in your class, and my biggest hangup was I didn't get the right size paper and start in the right place on my paper, so all my lines were going off onto the table. And but I think we could do something with that. I think we could like chunk it so it's doable, because that
that's
was a great lesson.
way chunk it. Like if I would have done one little thing every day, that would have worked a lot better. But I tried to teach the whole thing. Uh, not my best idea, but it was a learning experience.
Yeah. How would we have known otherwise? So yeah,
Right, right.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks
All right,
again,
thank you,
JoAnne.
ladies.
Thanks everybody for joining.